Hi, I am Tamara Shoemaker. Um, if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., you know how the city is set up like a gigantic memorial. Adjust my camera here real quick. And kind of as the capital of a nation, it's the natural place for national reminders to be put into place, right? So the place is just packed with them. If you stand at the base of the Washington Monument, for instance, you can see in one direction the Capitol building, in the opposite direction you can see the Lincoln Memorial, and then kind of off to one side you see the White House. And its reflection pool, I mean, not the reflection pool of the White House, but the reflection pool of the Lincoln Memorial. And then there's a World War II monument not too far away. You don't have to walk very far to see the Jefferson Memorial or the Martin Luther King Memorial. And then you have the Vietnam Memorial, the Arlington Cemetery, which is a whole experience in itself, really cool. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier there. All sorts of memorials throughout the whole city. And I missed a whole lot of memorials. There's a lot of them. History just exudes from the place. And both as a history buff myself and as a semi-nearby resident of a city not too far south of that, I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of times. And I've really appreciated seeing all the monuments and the markers that remind me of what once was and of what is now, sort of as a result of what once was. So the city reminds me greatly of Athens during the time of Paul, when, according to Acts 17, verse 16, Paul is wandering around the city waiting for Silas and Timothy to join him. And as he meanders through the city, he's looking at all the statues and the idols, the monuments that are set up as places of worship. So, being Paul, right, he's preaching the gospel in the city, and he finds himself in the Areopagus, where he stands up during the meeting and says, "Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' Now what you worship is something unknown I'm going to proclaim to you," he says in Acts 17, verses 22 and 23. And then he goes on to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. So anyway, today, where I was in Joshua chapter 4, the Israelites have just crossed over the flood stage Jordan River into their promised land, but they don't yet have possession of it. They've got a few battles to fight yet before they'll be able to settle down, but the first major battle, the first major hurdle, is accomplished, right? They are no longer wandering around in the desert. Now the Lord has opened the gates to the promised land, to the land of milk and honey that he's told them that he's going to give them. So in Joshua chapter 4, verses 1 to 3, it says, "When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, 'Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests stood, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight.'" So the whole time this crossing has been happening, 4 Levite priests have been standing in the middle of the Jordan River, right, in the dry riverbed, with the poles that carry the Ark of the Covenant resting heavily on their shoulders. And honestly, my back hurts just thinking about it, right? Because maybe they had other priests come in and relieve them after a while because they had been there all night and they switched out shifts or something. I don't know. But still, ouch. That's a really strong and long vigil. It reminds me of the story of Moses holding up the staff of God in his arms while Aaron and Hur stood on either side of him, and they held up his arms for him when he got tired. I can still hear Bethel Camp's director saying during our traditional sword drills at the camp, where we held our Bibles above our heads in preparation to race to look up passages, that was what sword drills were, he would yell out, "No kinks in the elbows!" And I think about that every time I read the story of Moses holding up his arms during the battle. So what happens when a few have the courage to stand in the gap, right? To step aside from the many, the glory and the adrenaline of battle, and to quietly raise our hands and to quietly hold the weight of responsibility on our shoulders and feel it in our aching core for intercession, for standing in the gap for other people. Okay, that's a post for another day. I'm still in Joshua. Joshua chapter 4, verses 8 and 9 says, "So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down." Right? And they, let's see where I lost my place. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they are there to this day. They probably aren't there to this day, to May 12th, 2021, but they were at least there until the writing of the scroll that recorded the book of Joshua. So Joshua makes a monument, right? All around the Israelite nations are nations who have also set up monuments, have also set up altars and Asherah poles and high places and all sorts of holy grounds where they can come and worship their gods. Joshua sets up a monument too, but he sets up one of 12 stones, one for each tribe of Israel, that points to God. And I'll tell you this, in Joshua chapter 4, verses 21 to 24, he tells the Israelites, "In the future, when your descendants ask their fathers, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan just what he had done to the Red Sea when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over.' Here's the reason. He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God." The monument Joshua set up pointed to the power and the glory of the Lord. The monument Joshua set up reminded the people to worship God. So monuments remind us of a past, right? Often that past tends to shape our futures if we let it, like Paul in Athens, right? Before which monument are we going to stand and allow that monument to kind of resonate with us? Have we set up monuments to fear, to doubt, to discouragement? To be completely honest, I have, yep. Have we set up monuments to anger, to division, to pride? That's me. What kinds of monuments should we be raising instead? So here's an idea. What if we were to step back into the middle of the Jordan River, back into the place of greatest fear, of greatest testing, and carry markers of victory out with us? Point to that stone, that, there. I walked through that only by the power of the Lord, right? The Lord of all the earth, Joshua reminds us in chapter 3, verse 13. And here is my monument, my reminder that I did not do this by myself. Here is my monument, my reminder that God fought this battle for me. Here's my monument, my reminder that the monument itself is not my salvation. It's only a reminder of what the Lord has done for me. So this monument is made up of heavy stones. It's dragged from the battle as a reminder that I did nothing to deserve the victory. The only reason that it exists is to point to God. It's not a reminder to an unknown God, right? It's a reminder of the God that I know personally, the one that I know intimately. And it's a mark of unmerited favor, of unmerited grace, right? He fights our battles for us. So I was thinking about writing some more about this on my blog, but I didn't, because I think that this is enough. I think I'm going to go ahead and push it to the back burner. I'm going to put a lid over it, right? Turn it on low heat. We're going to let it simmer for a while. Marinate the flavors. Yeah, good metaphor. All right, so we'll continue on towards Jericho tomorrow. Have a great day.